For those who don't know already, I'm Wendy Gordon. My Substack is Changing Lives, and it's for anyone who wants to change lives, starting with their own, because we can't help anyone else until we help ourselves first. Um, and I am very passionate about both mental and spiritual health, and think everything is spiritual. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a particular set of religious beliefs. I'm also passionate about interaction and building genuine community where we address substantive issues and mutually support each other. And Karen has similar passions from what I can tell from reading her Substack thus far. And I'll let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her Substack.
Okay, well, I'll apologize. Apparently the little guy over there didn't get the ice cream that he wanted, so he's having a total meltdown. So you'll just have to excuse me for the crying in the background. Hi, everybody. My name is Karen, and I just wanted to say, Wendy, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you today. So I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I'm also a hypnotist. And I seem to work with a lot of complicated cases, but I'm in the processes of finishing up my first book, which is Go With Your Gut Beyond Menopause. And that about sums me up. I'm sure I could talk forever, but that's what comes to mind right now.
All right. And what is the title of your Substack?
Oh, my Substack is Hey Lady, You Are Fascinating.
And I loved that title. So tell me how you came up with that title. What's the story behind it?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. So, I just want to say, hey, Betty Boldbrew, glad that you could join us. I just had to give that little shout out. I came up with that. I was going through Substack and I noticed that there was a lot on menopause, but it seems to be, and again, it goes back to my whole questioning the norm, which I'm sure you'll bring up, but it's always, midlife or, menopause, or it always just seems to be like the norm of what everybody's saying. And I feel like when you go into this, this second half of life, that's another thing that a lot of Substackers say. It's almost like you're supposed to just throw up who you are and put it to the corner because you're old, nobody wants to talk to you type of thing, and aches and pains and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought, no, I think that this second half of life is really about coming into your own and really being able to share in the gifts that you have, whether you raise children or not. We go through this process of, I guess, biologically, we're supposed to rear children. And then when we go into the second half of our life, which is the grandmother hypothesis, that's where we get to really share our gifts with the younger generation, as well as pick up the things that we weren't able to do because, maybe we were raising a family, whether it was a fur family or a human family. And so I just thought, I want to hear about people's fascinations. And a really good example of that is there was somebody who subscribed to me, and I said, hey, tell me something fascinating about you. And they said, oh, I don't really consider this fascinating, but I do this, and this. And I thought, well, that's very fascinating to me. And I think that we just happen to live in a society where we're constantly dimming our light because that's what society expects of us. And not just women, but just in general, once you're over 50, oh, I just do this. Oh, I'm just this. No, you are fabulously and fascinating to everybody that you come into contact with, and you should shine that light always. So that's sort of how I came up with that whole, hey lady, you're fascinating. And then the hey lady part is my daughter. We would be out, and are you a mom by any chance?
No, I am not.
Okay. So if you've been a mom and you've had children and those children are like, hey mom, hi mom, mom, mom. And so you turn that whole mom word off once they reach a certain age. So I would be out with my daughter and she'd like, mom, mom. So then she'd say, hey lady. And then I would turn around. So she just kept calling me, hey lady. And I thought, oh, I really like that because it grabs your attention, hey lady. And then having the fascinating side of it, I just think is brilliant because it catches you. It's like, oh, And I also believe, yes, we can have different words, woman, female, but at the end of the day, we are ladies. So it all fell together.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I, the idea that after 50, when we enter the second half of our lives, because there are more and more people living to 100 these days. So, and
A lot, yeah.
the old mindset of, you're approaching retirement. Many of us are starting from scratch, brand new careers at 50 and beyond.
Yeah.
Or retirement looks like, doing what we've always wanted to do almost full time, whether it's for pay or not. And
Yeah.
certainly for me, I've started a brand new career in my mid 50s. Hadn't planned on it originally, but life happened and my former career was just no longer viable, at least for me, for multiple reasons. And
Yeah.
so here I am. And I started out purely as a writer on Medium and now on Substack. And as a freelancer, I get paid to write articles. But I realized that, as a writer, it's kind of a one-way street, even if people leave comments later. And what I really love are, face to face, even if it's over Zoom or Substack Live, conversations about things that matter where there can be this give and take. And so I started doing these lives and I thoroughly loved every single one of them. And a consistent theme with every guest has been the same, that we are just now coming into our own. And not just at 50 plus. One of my guests is 81 and Melinda Blau, and she published her latest book last year at the age of 80. And it's about the wisdom she gained from women who are 20 years older than her, some of whom are still living.
Oh, wow.
And so
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. And all of my other guests, similar stories of whatever age beyond 50 we are, that we just reach a point where we realize what society expects of us and what social norms are toxic to our mental health, our physical health, well-being in general, in multiple ways. And that when we embrace our authentic selves and do what we feel called or what our intuition tells us is right for us, not just in terms of work, but how we live our lives, what our goals are, what success means to us, or what kind of good life we want versus what we're told from a young age we're supposed to want. It changes everything.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. And it's interesting that you said that little bit there, because when it comes to the gallbladder is the emotional connections, is the regret. And that's why for women have gallbladder removal and men it's about that regret. So I love that you said that, that once you reach this age, there are no regrets. You have to. You can't just sit and wait until that next chapter is to come into your life. Now's the time to be doing the things, and there's no excuses.
Yeah. And the other thing is there was always this narrative of menopause as being this time of loss, because now you're no longer able to have children if you want them. Whereas I never had children. And supposedly, when I hit menopause, I was supposed to always, regret that I had not. And, certainly for some women, it is devastating. And they tried for years and very much wanted to have children and were not able to. But that wasn't the case for me. And furthermore, despite the really annoying hot flashes and other issues, I'm thrilled that I no longer have to deal with bleeding every month and the hassles that go with that, nor do I have to worry about the possibility of getting pregnant, especially these days when, for various reasons here, at least here in Texas, women who have had late stage miscarriages have actually died because the doctors are really paranoid that they'll get in trouble for treating them while there's still a detectable fetal heartbeat, and that's a separate thing. But anyway, it's very liberating, even though there are some things that are a real nuisance about menopause symptoms. In other ways, it's wonderful to not have the symptoms, that were prior to menopause issues. So
that's very true. Yeah. I know I went through a period, I think I was I want to say 48, 49, somewhere around there. And I started to have, going long time without a period. And I thought, oh, is this it? And I did go through a morning and I thought, no, I'm not ready for this. So I cleaned up my diet. And of course, my menstruation completely came back. And then when it finally fizzled out, I think at 53, 54, so I think it was about 53, I thought, okay, now I'm ready.
Mm.
Now yeah. So I totally understand that whole morning period, That's funny, morning period. Never mind. That's not what I meant. MOURNING.
Yeah, I get it. Right. And every woman's experience is different. Yeah, for some it is a deep loss, and my experience is by no means universal. But the more important point is, changing the narrative that this is like the beginning of the end and a long, slide into inevitable decline, and being,
Oh,
just unable to do anything that you want to do, and all the things.
yeah, I don't like that at all. And that's the norm part, and I think a lot of women fall into that, or it can even be a cop out at the same time, oh, now I don't need to exercise. I can eat whatever I want because the norm is, fat and frumpy and nobody cares anyway. So why should I? And it's like, no, I spent a year traveling across the United States speaking, and I was talking about, gut health and just how gut health is the foundation for anything. Hormones, you name it, it doesn't matter. And I had a slide at the end, and it was a picture of my my mother-in-law. Sorry, she just passed away, so I'm just like I'm trying to remember. It's like, oh, never mind. Anyway, it's been a long drive. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. But anyway, so I had a picture of her jumping out of a plane. And I said, and she was 70 years old when she started jumping. Her last jump, she was 78, and then she passed away a year later. And she wanted to do that last jump. So I always left it with, look, you have a choice. And I would show that picture of her, and she's midair, and she's tandem, of course, but she's midair, And I said, you have a choice. You can either be 70 years old and jumping out of a plane fit as a fiddle, and then my next slide would be somebody with a walker, or you can be 70 years old and with a walker. Like, the choice is yours, and some you would see their eyes light up and think, oh, no one says that. No one says, oh, you have a choice between, being really fit and healthy or just doing what everybody else is doing. And we forget that we have that choice.
Yeah, I don't think it's always a choice. Obviously, things can happen that we can't control, but certainly diet and exercise play a crucial role in our health and overall well-being. Like you said, it's tied to mental health too. It's tied to every aspect of life, how we feel about ourselves, our energy level. It all
Yeah.
is intertwined. And the other thing I would add is that, society's beauty standards not only emphasize thinness, sometimes to an unhealthy degree, but they also, for women, it's like you're supposed to look as young as possible. So if that means surgery or Botox or, makeup, dyeing your hair, whatever. And again, for women for whom that's important, I'm not trying to shame them or put judgment on them, but I'm just saying it's sad that in our society as a whole, there's this devaluing of women who aren't physically attractive by society's standards, instead of focusing on what's inner beauty, which of course is what's far more important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's where, like even with myself, sure, I will tell you, if it didn't hurt to maybe, do a little an uptick here, I would get it done. Of course I would get it done because it would, and it's not even for anybody else. It's for me, just make me good. But you have to really, when you decide that, okay, I need to go and dye my hair, you have to ask, who are you dyeing your hair for? There's nothing wrong with dyeing your hair, but who are you dyeing it for? If you're going to lose a ton of weight, who are you losing that weight for? Are you losing it for yourself to just feel good? Or are you doing it because you're trying to fit in and keep that youthful appearance? And the sad part of that is, I mean, I lived in Arizona for 15 years and I lived just on the cusp of Scottsdale. and Paradise Valley. I would say the wealthier areas. And the reason why I say that is because that's where tucking and, lip filler and cheek fillers and Botox, like you said. And it's so sad because sure, they look great on the outside, but they're so insecure. And I mean, in front of you, they look beautiful, but they can't shine their light from within because they were never taught that. They were told that external is what matters, not internal.
Yeah, and society reinforces that at every turn, just as it reinforces the, productivity as the god and profits mattering more than people's well-being. And life is all about, what you achieve externally and what you're admired for versus what you really feel led to do or how you treat people. Um, it's all about from a young age in school. For me, it was all about competitions and winning awards and getting straight A's, which of course did help me in some ways. But, I learned that my self-worth is totally based on what I achieve and about beating out other people, right? Versus us working together to create a better world and treating each other with kindness and respect and honoring our differences rather than trying to say, I'm better than you, I'm right and you're wrong.
I think that's the biggest skill that we need to learn as a society. I mean, we are supposed to be a collective, and we're anything but a collective. We've gone off into our own little pods, as I call them, and we do need to come back together, and we do need to start listening to others and, just really putting our phones down and listening to that next person. It's something that I have worked on, I would say the last 5-6 years. I can sit on a bench and somebody will sit on that bench next to me, tell me their whole life story, and I won't even know their name, and they get up and they leave. And I just thought, how powerful is that I got to spend 5 or 10 minutes or an hour in the presence of somebody else in the present moment and just learning about that person. And I just wish that more of us could do that. Sitting at a large table and having 4 or 5 extra chairs and just see if anybody will actually come and just sit with you. I'm always trying to up the ante. So I will pick a table that has 3 or 4 extra seats and see if anybody will actually come and sit there. Not always, sometimes, or they might completely ignore me, or sometimes they'll end up in a complete conversation. And I just think, wow, I learned a couple of things that I can now integrate into my life going forward. And I wish more of us would do that. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that is something that I've just kind of naturally my entire life, before career or anything like had been the kind of person that I guess gives off that kind of energy where in laundromats, in airports, at the grocery store, without any effort on my part, people will come up to me and start pouring out their souls. I mean, telling me very personal things. And that's kind of what led me. My first career was as a pastor and now as a coach and a support group leader. I'm a certified NAMI recovery support group facilitator, among other things. And I do peer listening for this company called Kindly Human. But yeah, it's so powerful to have, number one, somebody trust you enough to be that vulnerable. And that's one reason I started my Substack, was to be that vulnerable myself, to help others see that it's okay, even for the entire online world, to know that, I struggled with depression and I've had suicidal thoughts in the past and whatever else it might be. We have these shameful secrets that we're taught are not okay and make us bad or inferior or defective or whatever. And when we share them, we realize other people have these issues too, or they have their own issues. And this is what makes us human. It doesn't make us flawed. And the more we can talk about it, the better. We can give each other ideas for, ways to cope or mindfulness techniques or journaling prompts or whatever.
Well, and I also think that we are the last generation to go through our life that didn't start with technology. And I feel that we have the upper hand with that because we didn't have social media platforms to say, oh, it's okay to be this, it's okay to be that. I think we knew it was okay for the most part. Or, maybe you were raised a certain way and then you hit college and you're on your own and then you meet a whole bunch of people and it's like, oh, I don't have to be like that anymore.
Mhm.
But I think with social media platforms, we don't get that opportunity now. We're always constantly tuning in and being told what to think, what to wear, how to be, and I just think that if we could just turn off social media and just go out there like you and I have and just start these conversations, we'll find that we really don't even need the social media platforms, except for Substack people, except for Substack.
Although, since you brought that up, I will say when I first started my Substack, notes did not exist. And in some ways, I
Yeah, me
wish
too.
it still didn't, even though it's helped me grow exponentially. And there are some good aspects of it. There are lots of great, thoughtful posts on it, unlike other platforms. But nevertheless, it does encourage that kind of comparison. And this is how you're supposed to do it. And let me teach you the right way and those kinds of things.
Yes, absolutely. And the one I wrote I haven't been on Substack much just because of the amount of traveling and taking care of people. And I wrote a post and it came off the wrong way. But what I was trying to say is, okay, how can somebody post a picture of a cat and have 14,000 likes? I posting from the heart and I've got 5 likes, and it's just, and then I found that I was starting, just like you said, I was starting to fall into that trap again because I very rarely go on Instagram. I cut all of that out. I want to say maybe 3 years ago. You can go on and see the last time I posted, and it was actually by accident. I was a micro influencer for a while and it was just so fake and just so disingenuine that I can't do this anymore. And I feel like with the notes that Substack is starting to do that. And you're starting to see a lot of the videos come in and a lot of the Instagram and the TikTok videos. And I just thought, could we just, keep this one platform where we don't bring all that, excuse my language, shit into it? Just leave that out. Let's just be genuine. And I'm really okay with 7 likes because those 7 people, they always like, and they're awesome people. So I thought to myself, I don't need 14,000 likes. I just need those 7 people who I can interact with all the time. So yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I am very grateful that the way the Substack notes feed is set up, I can have mine set to following and only see notes from the people I'm following versus like hateful comments that I don't want to see or the superficial fake stuff. Although that still gets in there. But what's interesting is the vast majority of my notes have had either 0 likes and restacks and comments or less than 10, let's say. The only one that has gotten like more than 400, which is like 10 times,
whoa,
is the one where I posted that, I've been writing weekly on changing lives for more than 3 years now. I've never been a featured Substack. I'm not a bestseller. I still have fewer subscribers than some of the people that have, only been here for 6 months. And yet, my words have helped people and they have let me know that. And so, it was kind of comforting and inspiring to me that that's the note that got traction when, others have not. So
I did something really...
What?
Sorry, I was going to say I did something really similar, but it was... And I said, I don't have almost the same thing. I don't have millions of get 2 likes. I get this, I get that. But you know what? I'm happy with that. And then that one went viral too. So I think there was a time where all this, and I had no idea that would go viral. I'm like, come on, man, I'm posting pictures of my cats and this is what's going viral. So yeah, I've just decided, and because I just came back from Canada and it gave me I was just too busy to spend the time to be on Substack. And I thought, you know what? I actually like this. I like the fact that I'm not on Substack all the time now. And I'm just going to go back to just doing like what you're doing. And you know what? It's going to hit the right person. And that's all I care about.
Yeah. Definitely, as with anything in life, the comparison thing can be really destructive. And even if, I get into the mindset of I'm better than this other person because I'm not doing that, that's equally destructive as saying I'm scum compared to them or whatever. We everyone has their strengths and everyone has areas they're not so good in, and that's what makes humanity beautiful. If we were all the same, who would want to live in that kind of world, right? But you are very right.
How boring would that be?
Yes, exactly. And like you, I'm so glad that social media did not exist when I was in high school, because I mean, I wasn't I wasn't significantly bullied or anything, but nevertheless, the cutting remarks and stuff that would stay within a circle or at least within your class or your school can now go out to the world, and it's so much harder on kids. And of course, now with the AI, faking some woman, a teenage girl looking like she's nude, artificially created.
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
things. Yeah, it's horrible. But I do get that also for some teens, and especially during the pandemic, it was a lifeline. When they're communicating with their true friends, it can be incredibly helpful. Just like for me on Facebook as a whole, I despise, but the private groups I'm in on Facebook are actually helpful, genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's all I go on Facebook for, is a couple of groups, and that's it. Yep. I hear you 100% on that one.
And I like that on Substack, we can build an audience purely by being genuine and just, pouring our heart out on the page, saying what we really believe. And the right people, the people that resonate with it, will find us and be drawn to it and want more of it. And those that don't can, have their tribe and doing something completely different. And that's fine. And I know there's a lot of concern
absolutely.
that in the mental health and the life after 50 space, there's so many of us now that it's somehow oversaturated. But no, we're each unique individuals with our own contributions to make, and the way we express it, each of us will have different people that resonate with us in different ways. Plus, people can subscribe to my Substack and yours and 10 others or whatever. It's not like we have to compete.
Exactly. And there really is at the end of the day, there is no competition. If you open your heart to the universe, the right people are going to find you. Yeah, there is no competition. There really isn't.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the most toxic social norms that we have to overcome. And you combine the competition with the mindset that what it means to succeed or to win the competition is to have the nicest house, the fanciest car, the discretionary income to take luxury vacations all over the world whenever you feel like it, whatever it might be. And then, we're supposed to strive for that, even though it's getting increasingly impossible to achieve. That's supposed to be the goal for everyone. And if you fall short of it, you're somehow a drain on society and a failure and all the things. And it's just so harmful, especially I'll give a personal example. My husband is 60 years old, and since our previous career ended, he has been trying to get a job, not even in a related field, even a low entry level job, whatever he could get. And number one, age discrimination is real, even though of course they can always say it's due to something else. But also there's so many other people on LinkedIn and elsewhere who are going through the same struggle. Teachers who, after 30 years of teaching, decided I can't do this anymore with the current climate of book bans and new rules and not enough pay and all the things. But yeah, they're struggling to find work too. And to try to be finding work, and when in a society that constantly tells you if you're not working, you're worthless, society, you're like this happy image, I'm successful and I want to do this, I'd be great. It's just so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I lived in Mexico for a year, and it was the best time of my life. I would go to people's homes, all different levels of income. And what I loved, not one person would apologize for their clean home being dirty. You walked some of them, they just had plywood floors. There was never an apology. This is my casa. You are welcomed. And that's it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved that. There was just, the pretension was gone. You know, you were there to genuinely be with the people, not with the home. And I loved that. And it took me about a year to be able to really integrate myself back into the United States when I came back. And I just missed that whole culture. And I've traveled to a lot of Caribbean countries, and the same thing. There's never an apology. This is who I am. I'm inviting you into my home. Let's have tea or whatever it is, you know, and I wish that we were more like that here. We just have so much anxiety about, ridiculous things that don't matter.
And the other thing they do that we don't is prioritize rest and relationships and connection. The whole idea of the siesta. And I know Italy is the same way, because another subsector actually, after a trip there, decided to live there at least part of the year, because it's such a healthier mindset that prioritizes well-being over nonstop productivity, as if we're robots and all that matters is, what we do.
Yeah. Well, there's so much fear with it, fear that if I go on vacation, somebody's going to take my job, they're going to outsource me. And, that's a real thing. But if you're constantly on like that, you start to have all sorts of hormonal problems. And you were talking about the hot flashes, you can literally sail through menopause and beyond and never have a hot flash, but you have to look at your emotions. You have to look at your lifestyle. You have to look at your diet, and if you talk to women in other countries who, again, have those siestas that are more family oriented, they do not have the disease of menopause. They just have a flow that happens, a change, a transition. So yeah, it's just, I think every single person in North America should go to another country, whatever that country may be, and really indulge yourself in the day to day and just see what we are missing out on. It'll just absolutely change your life.
My husband and I lived in Hawaii, which is not quite the same. It's still the United States, but there's the similar laid back, relaxed attitude about life.
Yeah.
Work. I mean, to be fair, people are often working 2 and 3 jobs just to afford to live there. So it's still not good that way. But in terms of the overall laid back mindset and just helping people, I mean, that's starting to change as more people move there from other places. But when we lived there, it was, I mean, we went there on vacation one time, and that was enough for us to go back to Pennsylvania, immediately put our house on the market. As soon as it sold, within a year, we were living on Maui, because we realized this is the life we want. This is so much healthier. And even other countries, even more so. We've been to Grand Cayman. We've been to the Bahamas.
Oh, I love Grand Cayman. Love Bahamas.
Although I have to say, we went to Grand Cayman on our honeymoon in 1991. And then we went again for our 25th anniversary or 35th or whatever, a few years ago. And the difference was beyond words. I mean, it was this like busy metropolitan place, not just in the main city, but like throughout, like the areas that were totally rural and undeveloped when we were there the first time were just, extended suburbs or whatever you want to call them. It was very different.
The hurricanes must have changed it, but yeah. Yeah, that's so sad because the whole farther end of the island where Red Sail is, that end, it's just peaceful and quiet, and I'm very sad to hear that.
And in every case, it's pretty much because U.S. expats move or it becomes so much of a tourist attraction for U.S. residents that the culture shifts so that it can be profitable and give U.S. residents visiting there what they want. Basically, it seems.
And they have like one end of the island is all the cruise ship tenders.
Yes,
I don't think they port; they're tenders, right? Yeah, they tender. So that whole end is all tourists, and I could absolutely see that. But as soon as you get out and you go to the other end of the island, I really hope that that hasn't changed too. Well, and there's a little bit of tourists there because they have the boats that go out and do all the different, what do you call them? The stingrays and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah. And diving's huge there too. Yeah. That's sad though that it's finally caught up. Well, and that was the same thing, in some of these countries you'll see a McDonald's and a Starbucks
Yes.
and like I was upset because it's like, no, I want to come to your country and enjoy your culture. I don't want to see a McDonald's. I don't want to see a Starbucks. And when I lived in Mexico, they had everything. They had all the chain boxes, and
Yeah.
it was
I've
just, to
been to
me, I just felt
Cancun,
so
and yeah,
sad.
it was just like being in a US place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
inland Mexico, I
And
will say, was completely different. I was able to go to the parts where most tourists don't go, and do
yeah.
some nature excursions and so forth, and completely different. Uh, but regardless of that, our main focus for both of us is how we can, make the best of our lives at this age, given the society that we do find ourselves in. And
Yeah.
one of those ways, as we talked about, is questioning those social norms and saying, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm choosing a different way of life. I'm going to prioritize my well-being. I'm going to rest when I need to. I'm going to, care about having quality time with my family and friends, whatever it might be. That's countercultural, or even just, embracing your sexual orientation, gender identity, whatever society as a whole has said, no, that's not okay. You must be this way. To just say, no, this
Right.
is who I am, take me or leave me. And that was one of the most liberating things for me when I started my Substack about my mental health issues, was just writing about it and knowing that anyone in the world could stumble across this and saying, yeah, I'm okay with that. This is part of my life. If they think it's horrible, then that's on them, not me. Was, listed all the shame and was
Yeah.
just so healing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I think I'm in my third year or fourth year on Substack. I can't remember. And it was this last year that excuse me, I changed it, and I came up with my tagline: question the norm, trust your wisdom, and sage with sass and in everyday life. Is because, I'm listening, and I'm always listening to the groundswell. I'd like to know, what people are thinking is norm. And then I also pay attention to commercials, because commercials tell you a lot about how society is thinking. And so it's just like, we really do need to question the norm. We need to turn the normal off and trust our own wisdom. We need to tap in and say, you know what? I'm going to go gray. I'm going to have gray hair because gray hair for me works. I don't care what anybody else thinks. If I want to go and start taking singing lessons at 85 years old, who cares what anybody else thinks? It's about what your gut is saying, what you want to do. And I've spent the last 2 years really paying attention to that line, but bringing it into fruition this year and doing things that I wouldn't normally do because I was afraid, and I just thought, what am I afraid of? Who am I afraid of? No one. Why am I not doing what I want to do? And it's been really liberating. Now, I'm not ready to jump out of a plane just because I don't think I need to do that. But there's lots of things that I've been doing, uh, my husband is more of a homebody. So I hike by myself. I go to tourist attractions by myself. I do tons of things. Plus, when he is home doing a homebody, the other half of him is always on the road traveling. So do I sit and not do anything? And I just spent 3 months with my mom. She had a fractured spine. So I was helping her. And I thought it was really interesting. She's 75. And she does not like the town that she's in. And her significant other died a couple of years ago. And I said, Mom, the world is your oyster. You can live anywhere. And she won't. She's like, nope, I'm going to stay here. And she just complains, but she's not willing to try anything different. So we were going on a drive every day. And I said, nope, today we're taking it off highways, and we're just going to go and do some place that you don't even know exists. And so we were doing all these off roads, and we found all these waterfalls. And what I'm hoping is that I could show her, hey, you can do this stuff. Just pack a nice lunch, get in your car, and just go for a drive. And I always have bear spray no matter where I go. And so I said, Mom, you can have my bear spray. So I said, if you're worried, you just spray them and you take off, that kind of a thing. And, it was just, it was just really interesting for me because I thought, a lot of my stuckness was a learned behavior. And so now I felt like it was my time. It was my time to unlearn her behaviors for myself, but also teach her, hey, you can be independent. You can go do things on your own, and she was asking me lots of questions. Well, do you go to movies by yourself? I go, heck yeah, I prefer going to a movie by myself. I just really like being in the company of myself. So
yeah,
I just really hope that
I do things all the time by myself, even though I'm happily married, because I want to do them and my husband doesn't. Or I'm such a nature lover that I can stand in
Me
one
too.
place for half an hour and watch a great movie.
Me too.
Whereas he's like, we came here to walk, let's go.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Like his whole thing with nature is like, let's go. And I'm like, no, I really want to watch the dust settle. I want to sit here and see. I spent 30 minutes. I don't even know where I was. I was on this trail, and there must have been, I don't know, 150 robins. And I was there by myself because I always get to a park just as day breaks. So I'm there before any chit-chatties show up. I'm there by myself. I get to see nature. And there was all these robins, and they were flying around and they were chirping. I had no idea they had that much noise. And all of a sudden, boom, they went quiet. And 5 minutes later, the chitty-chatties came through, and I went, I would never have known that if I hadn't had that opportunity to just sit there and go, nature can hear you 5 minutes from when you're going to show up. And so, I just prefer to go on my own so that I can sit there and take 12 million pictures if I want to, delete all of them but one.
I need to go back and delete mine because I do take some weeks 100 on one walk, right? Of the butterflies and the flowers and the bunnies and the ferns and everything, and the sunset and the
worm. Yes, I
carry my stress relievers. It's one of the places where I'm always calm and I'm always fully in the present, which is a challenge for me because I have ADHD. But I'm completely, scanning the environment always for, what am I going to see next? And, and even with it, I can watch it for so long because it's moving.
I get excited just watching a little sprout come up, and I'm like, oh, look at you, go for it. I can't wait to see what you can grow into. And then I'll see, like a little fir tree that's about this big, next to this humongous 20 feet tall. And I'm like, you're going to be that one day. I actually carry my hiking shoes in my car. I do not leave home without my hiking shoes. And like I said, I just spent 3 months in Ontario, Canada, and I was so upset that I did not bring my hiking shoes. I just couldn't fit them into my suitcase. I was like, it's snowing. I probably won't need them. It was the worst 3 months of my life, not for what I was doing, but just the fact that I couldn't go and just get dirty,
Yeah. And since you mentioned commercials, another social norm that can be toxic, I have found one of the biggest barriers for me trying to succeed as a coach and on Substack and support group leader is, number one, that I just want to help people. So I'm always tempted to just say, I'll do it for free, which it would be great if I were independently wealthy, but I do have to pay the rent and eat, But
sure,
it's the marketing, because the so-called effective marketing techniques that most people teach are emotionally manipulative, in my opinion.
They are on purpose.
Lying to people. My husband and I have both quit jobs that literally, like, a manager ordered us to lie to customers, and we said, nope, not doing it. And but so I just recently found a group, the Soulful Sales Society. And it helped me immensely. And I shared the link on Notes a while back because they were having a big sale. But even when it's not on sale, it's totally worth it. Just for the support. And it's not just like self-paced courses. It has that, and it has like the resource vault. But more importantly, it has live interactive calls, and the founder is neurodivergent. She's sensitive. She's introverted, and she couldn't do traditional marketing. And so that's how she figured out this way to be authentic and soulful and sell in a way that didn't feel gross, right?
Yeah,
So that's
totally
helping me a
understand
lot.
that. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, no, it is extremely challenging. But, and I've had a newsletter for eons, probably 10 or 15 years, and I have literally sent out emails that said, look, I have programs available and you're not buying them because I'm not selling you the marketing bullshit that you don't need. And I'm not going to do that. So, you know what? If you want to get better, call me. I am not going to sell you. And it works. It totally works because now you're just coming from that point. But again, it's that norm thing. We are so disconnected with our soul, our light being, our cells, our minds, our emotions, that we have to be told how to think and feel. We have to be told what tastes good, what looks good, And that is so sad. And that's why we have the marketing. They spend millions of dollars on the psychology part of it to know how to get people to remain. I have clients who send me supplements, say, hey, what do you think about this supplement? And I'll say, marketing, 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 marketing. The one that you're on has the same ingredients. What's wrong with it? Oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't have the $12 million behind it to get you hook, line, and sinker into it. And it's sad, but there are a lot of authentic people out there. And that's one of the things that I like about Substack is I want to connect with that soul. I want to connect with the creativity. And if I love your creativity, then I'm willing to buy into you. And that's just how I am. Marketing is lost on me. Absolutely lost. But if we could just get everybody else to believe in that, it would be great. We'd all be very, wealthy. But yeah.
Speaking of that, I do have to give a shout out to Sarah Fay, because among the millions of people now claiming to be Substack experts and teach you to succeed if you buy their course or pay them as a coach or whatever, Sarah Fay is the real deal, and she has helped me enormously and has thousands of paid subscribers for good reason. She's authentic. Yeah, she doesn't do the pushy, annoying sales stuff. She's like, this is what I offer. This is how I can help you. And she delivers, and she's been another great help for me.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't joined hers. I've joined a bunch of them, and I'm just sure you can get little tidbits, but what I'm tired of is they'll say, hey, you've got to do it this way, and you're not succeeding because you need to do A, B, and C. And then they want you you have to do everything on Canva. Well, they're actually getting a kickback for Canva. Why are they not teaching you how to use your laptop? Why are they not teaching you how to use Pages or Word document? You don't need all those programs. I was in one of them and they were talking about audio. I do my Substack with I use Final Cut, but your laptop actually comes with a video. It doesn't matter if it's a PC or a Mac. It comes with a built-in, you might have to download it, but it comes with a video thing. What do you call that? An editing software.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing in the world. It's free and you export it out as an audio. But when I try to tell people that, because I don't have the big shiny stuff to go with it, it's like, oh, no. There's no way that could work because it's free. And I'm like,
right.
Okay, keep paying $10 and $15 and $20 and $30 here a month for what? Frustration. I don't get it. Absolutely don't get it. The simple things, they work. Stick to simple. Stick to simple.
Yeah. And that's another reason I love Sarah Fay is, number one, she doesn't just say you must do it this way. She bases it on like research and gives all these examples of other people's Substacks, not just hers. But she also recommends free tools, and they're not like affiliate links. And so she turned on to Luma, which is lu.ma, which you use in conjunction with Zoom to schedule meetings, and people. It's easier for people to register, and then they automatically get sent the Zoom link versus I was doing it myself manually.
Okay.
This big free event coming up on Zoom on September 7th. That because I want to create this authentic community of like-minded souls who want to work on ourselves, but also transform society a little at a time, starting with ourselves, right? And do some good in the world instead of just complaining about how horrible it is. And also just help ourselves deal with the horrible parts, right? And not go insane. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so
Yeah.
I never would have known about that. And she didn't like say, "Oh, here's my affiliate link in the chat" or whatever. She just mentioned it, and I went on my own, and it's a free and an incredibly helpful tool.
Yeah. I know everybody's using Kit now because it's
Yeah, why? I
Kit.
don't get that either. Yeah, because
I looked
Substack, I
in,
can email
yeah.
my list anytime for free, right? So
It's just another shiny thing. And that's what happens is, you start on this platform and then you've got to have all these other shiny things. It's like, just focus on one thing, and like you said, you've been on it 3 years and now you've built up a wonderful community. It took me 3 years to figure out what direction I wanted to go in, but I show up every day. I have 2 publications and I show up every week for those publications and I put it out. If I reach one person, I feel like I've done my daily service because it reached the perfect person who needed it in that moment. And that's what I really like about it.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there are just so many different free tools available or low cost ones where you don't have to spend the big bucks that and yeah, sometimes I'll give an example of YouTube. Are the ads annoying as hell? Yes. But would I pay however much it is a month now to not have to deal with those ads? No. To get, I'd rather endure them and save money for myself,
Yeah, I just refuse. It sounds terrible, but I guess because I'm old school, I just refuse to give YouTube any money. They've got enough intel on me. I'm
Exactly.
not paying
Similar,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not paying them to have more intel. So, yeah, I'm a little weird that way. And I own it. I'm happy to be weird.
Yeah. I'm actually going to type in the chat because other people might want to check it out. The site I just mentioned. And again, it's not an affiliate link or anything. This is just what Sarah Faye turned me onto that has helped me. And this one is actually the link to my free community gathering on September 7th to sign up for it. But just the first part, lu.ma, is where anyone can sign up for free and do their thing.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'm just going to say hello to Sonia and Karen and Betty. Oh, Betty, I got a wave from you. And we have Michelle and Shan, Jason, and Tom. Oh, and John and Taylor, Jeffrey, and Dolly, and Wendy just put in lu.ma. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
I'll
the
have
part
to check
after
that
that
out.
is to register for my specific free community gathering on September 7th. But just the lu.ma is anyway, just a way to use a free service that connects to Zoom that I'm finding very helpful.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, like you said, there's so many ways. And the other thing is, it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the technology, at least for me as someone who didn't grow up with technology and it's all, a whole new world to figure out. But like you said, even with Substack, I mean, they're adding new features all the time and you can do all kinds of different things, but you don't have to do all the things. If you want to just publish a written post every week, that's fine. That's what I did for 2 years before there were these other options.
Yeah.
And you mentioned evolving too. Yeah. My Substack initially was only on mental health, and I was determined there was no way I was ever going to talk about social issues or spiritual stuff because that was too divisive and people have different opinions. And I just reached a point where I'm like, this is not just an individual problem. Mental health and physical health are very much social problems influenced by the toxic cultural values and other aspects of our society. And also, if I'm all about authenticity and saying what I really think, how can I hide this whole part of my life and say, oh, let's just talk about this part and ignore that? But so mine evolved.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you were writing about that. Sorry.
Yeah, I just, and so you had mentioned before about yours, kind of the process of figuring out what you really want to write about. And similar journey for me, that, and I had heard before I started doing it, the only way to find your quote unquote niche is to write long enough about different things until you figure out what you're most passionate about, right? Um, or in my case, I started out, oh, all I want to do is write. And then I realized, no, I actually enjoy the live interactions more than the writing. So I'm going to switch and do more of these because they're just more fun and more authentic in the moment versus me going back and editing everything and trying to get it just right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes. I spent last year, each year it seems I've done a transformation. So last year I spent the entire year narrating my Substack. So you could either listen to it or you could read it. And it was great. I loved it, but I still felt like I needed something different. So I was very happy when things started to fall into place towards the end of the year last year so that I could have this year to just, work on going with your gut beyond menopause. And it was my friend, my book accountability partner, Rob. I had taken a book course and, they had come up with this fancy book name and I just didn't like it at all. And he said, why don't you just go with your gut? And it was a little bit different. And I was like, yeah, I really like that. And then I had to work on it. And what I'm finding too is, and again, it goes back to the pharmaceutical companies. They are the ones who are putting this stuff in our minds so that we will take their medications because menopause is now a disease. And I thought, okay, everybody knows about menopause, but menopause is just going through the transition. Well, what happens after menopause? Well,
Right.
it's beyond menopause and there's nothing because the pharmaceutical companies don't have anything for beyond. So that's why I thought, no, I want to go beyond menopause. And what does that mean? Oh, it's the social, it's the emotional, it's the physical, it's the nutrition, it's everything combined that nobody's talking about once you've gone through menopause. And if you
Yeah.
ask anybody what menopause is, it's like, oh, going through the transition when you don't have a period anymore. It's like, no, it's called living your life for 51 years after, or depending on where you are, even longer than that. So yeah, we just have to start. We just really need to question the norm and trust our wisdom.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is the whole idea of the quick fix and taking shortcuts. And why do the like hard inner work and the counseling, journaling, whatever it might be, if you can just pop a pill and feel better, which it doesn't really work that way, but the industry would have you believe it does. And now, even after menopause, the new thing now is pushing drugs like Ozempic for weight loss.
Yep.
Yep. And that's
Oh, and the
especially sad
studies are
because
even coming out. The studies are even coming out now that Ozempic can help with mental health.
no, not surprising.
That's ridiculous. It's
Mhm.
absolutely ridiculous. Yes. They're just pushing the drugs. And what they do is they're now targeting the stars and they target the social media influencers so that it becomes the norm.
Right. Yeah,
That's not a good
absolutely.
thing.
It's peer pressure for adults, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes. We just, like I said, we have to keep our individuality. We need to be a fascinating person. And I'm not asking you to go out and become fascinating. You already are fascinating, but you need to own that fascination because, like you said, if we were all the same, we couldn't be fascinating.
Right.
We just wouldn't be. We would be dull and boring. We wouldn't even be thinking. There would be no thought. There would be no curiosity. There would be nothing.
Yeah. And I wanted to share one quote of yours that I loved and this is from your December 24th post about reflection, reinvention, and confidence. And it was your definition of confidence, which I think is fantastic. That it is the quiet assurance that you can trust yourself to make decisions, even when the outcome isn't clear. And I think that just says it all. That instead of, like so many people stay stuck in jobs they utterly hate because there's that illusion of security because you have that so-called guaranteed paycheck and the health insurance, which, they can take away at a moment's notice. And people don't think about that, but it's happening more and more these days. But yeah, there's this sense that it's not safe to take risks. Well, there comes a point where it's actually safer and healthier to take the risk. Like for me, even though I haven't yet achieved the level of financial success I need to get to, um, would I go back to the job with the steady paycheck? Not for any amount of money. That whole way of life was just toxic in so many ways. And now I can fully speak my truth, live my life without worrying about how are other people going to react to this? Am I going to get in trouble for saying this? It's much better.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of us need to do that. We need to have these inner talks and start listening to our own wisdom. Yeah. And thank you so much for reading that article. And I'm so glad that it resonated with you and for having that quote. I don't think I've ever been quoted before. So thank you.
Yep. And the other one I liked was the one from more recently on June 16th, when you talked about how curiosity builds resilience, because that's something I've worked on for myself too. And curiosity as a skill we can develop as an alternative to panic, because so much in our world and our lives is uncertain. It always was, but it was easier to have that illusion of certainty when, you have a steady job and other things seemed more stable, right? But yeah, I mean, if our current life is making us miserable or some aspect of it, we know we need to change, but that feels too scary. If we approach it with curiosity instead of panic and start by saying, well, if I just picture my ideal life, what would it look like? A day in my life, what would I want? And then, okay, what specifically in my current life, if I could change one thing, would I most want to change? And, what's one small thing I could do to move in that direction that would be an improvement over where I am now? Those kinds of questions. And I also loved that you emphasized not beating yourself up when you know what you want to do and you know the many good reasons to do it and you even know how to do it, but some days you just can't and you blow it. And at the end of I know for me, at the end of the day, I'm like, I can't believe I did this again. All these years, I know to do X, Y, and Z, and yet I still went into that negative thought spiral, or I still didn't exercise more. I still spent 5 hours editing some paragraphs because I'm such a perfectionist, whatever. Just having that grace with ourselves to say, yeah, I did that, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, curiosity is the catalyst for growth and resilience. It really is. I mean, like I said earlier, our bodies are constantly moving motion. They are light. They all have their own frequency. They all have their own information. And each of our organs, each cell has its own information. And if we are just constantly being told how to think, we shut down. That energy shuts down. That light is no longer shining, and if we would just start questioning and just, what would happen if I just did this? And like, my weight always seems to go up and down depending on how stressed I am. It's just, I've always been like that and I'm fine with it. And I wanted to just drop some of the weight because I really wasn't feeling good. And I was getting very frustrated. I thought I would try the keto diet. I'm a nutritionist, so I try them all. I try all the diets, unless they're really stupid, then I won't try them. Yeah. Or I might do it for a day or something like that. So I just said, oh man, this is really hard and I'm done. I can't get into ketosis. I've been doing this for 3 months. And then I just said, what would happen if you just kept going? What would happen if you just kept going? So every day when I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore, what would happen if I just gave it one more day? And soon enough, boom, all the weight just started dropping because I was now in that different frame of mind. And I use that a lot. Like you were saying, I have a tendency to get, I blow up at myself, or I get really frustrated, or I was like, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that. And now what I do is I'll play it over in my head, and then I refuse to allow myself to beat myself up beyond that point. And then I say, okay, so from this that happened today, what's one little thing that I could work on that will help me not to get into that situation again? And so I break that even down and break it down and break it down. So it's not this huge thing. It's a tiny little thing. And then I make it even tinier. And I always think of myself, it's like, okay, if we are constantly being told how to think, how to feel, etc., our cells go into protective mode. There's no expansion, there's no growth. And so I always think of that. All right, yeah, sure, I shouldn't have done this. I did it. Why did it happen? Okay, I need to work on that. I break it down, and then I think of my cells. If I do that tiny little bit, they're going to expand a tiny bit. And if I keep going, they're going to expand. They're going to expand. They're going to expand, and it'll open up. So I'm a very visual person. So that's how I'm learning to deal with things that I want to change. And I have a lot of things to change after spending 3 months with my mom and knowing that they're not mine.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up soon because I try to keep these to an hour, although I always
Sure.
talk for way longer. But
Sure.
But yeah, a couple of things I wanted to mention, because since we were talking about our harsh inner critics and forgiving ourselves when we don't do what we wanted to or do what we didn't want to.
Yeah.
I have a little stuffed pink octopus that lives on my nightstand that I have decided represents my inner child. And so every night I hold it, I pet it, and I say, I love you. You did great today. You're awesome. All of your big feelings are okay. I'm so proud of you, and I will always love you no matter what. You're awesome. Because I can't be mean to this smiling, adorable pink octopus, right? And the other thing I do is I have on my phone, my lock screen on my phone is a picture of me as a young child. And I wrote the words underneath it are, my love will not let you down, which also happens to be the title of a Bruce Springsteen song. And I'm a huge fan. And he's another great example of someone who at 75 is in better health than most people in their 30s and is literally rocking all over the world right now. But yeah, so anything, and I journal both in the morning and at night. And at night, I write affirmations that I actually believe, not like fake stuff that makes me want to barf, but like genuine, I am honest. I am, that I really believe. Yeah. And then also 5 things I'm grateful for from that day, and 5 things I accomplished, however small. And accomplishments can include walking in the park, taking a nap, reading a book, so all of those things are little things that make a big impact.
And that change, it literally shifts your perception. You're no longer coming from the, I wish I hadn't have, instead of, wow, look what I did do. What can I do next? Yeah, it's an amazing shift. And, the best thing to do is just to start small. Like if you're like, because I came from there. I was like, I read the book, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Yourself. And I was like, what is this crap? Yeah, I threw it. I'm like, what is this? You got in a car accident and you're grateful for it? I don't think so. So I threw it over my shoulder, and it was probably 3 or 4 months later. It popped up again and I read it and I had a different mindset. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take 2 of her affirmations, and I photocopied them. That's how long ago it was. Photocopied, because we didn't have phones. I photocopied it and I put it in a frame, and I put them in my bathroom because at the time I used to have Crohn's and I was always in the bathroom. So I would see them every time I was washing my hands, which was a lot.
Yeah.
And it was probably about 3 months later. I didn't even realize it because I didn't put any thought into it. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it would work. I didn't care if it worked. I just thought, I'll try it. Why not? What do I have to lose? All of a sudden, I noticed there was a shift. I started to hear the birds in the morning. I started to walk slowly. I was walking more upright, and there was this huge shift. And I went, what did I do that was different? Oh, the affirmation. So then I read her book. Then I decided to read the book. And then the book started to make sense because I had that tiny bit of a shift. So anybody can start at any time, anywhere. I mean, just do a search on Google, people who made it after 80. Just put in the word 80. And like you had said at the beginning of this, there are a lot of 80-year-olds out there getting their university degrees or getting their driver's license or accomplishing things that they didn't think they could ever accomplish. If they can do it at 80, girl, imagine what you can do at 50.
Yep. And like you said, start small. I mean, when I first started writing the affirmations, I struggled to come up with one. This is when I was first coming out of my really severe depression. And same thing with the gratitude list. Like, let me think of one thing, or one thing that I actually managed to do today. And at the time it was like, okay, I got up and got dressed, right? Because I was so depressed. And completely different now, but it built over time. It's not like I could have started then and had this whole long list, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, and
definitely.
it is true. And it's, you just start shifting. You just start shifting. I was very snarky about it in the beginning. Because I think Louise Hay talked about that. And I said, okay, fine. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. And then when I went back and looked at that like a month later, it's like, yeah, I am grateful there's a roof over my head because it brings me this and this and this and this. So yeah, there is a small little shift that happens very, very gradual. And it's just all of a sudden it hits you and it's like, hey, I just thought differently. So yeah, it definitely does work. You just have to give it the time. And even if you want to start snarky because you'll
Right.
shift anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll definitely shift. It just happens.
Well, I'm going to wrap things up now. Thank you to
Yeah.
those of you who watched us live, and this replay will be up on my page later today, and I think Substack puts it actually on notes right away when we end, um, along with the link to sign up for my free community gathering, the Zoom thing in September that I was talking about.
Yeah, it
Thank you
sounds
all for being
wonderful.
here, and I'm sure we'll
Thank
probably
you.
be on your page too at some point, Karen, because you'll get sent the video also. Uh,
Yes, mine will come out a little bit later because I like them to come out so that we can continue that energy. So yeah,
Great.
definitely. And you'll be tagged in it as well. So thank you very much for this, and money to you. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Great conversation. And thanks to those who
Yeah,
joined us
absolutely.
live and to whoever watches this later. Bye.
Bye.